Episode number 167, Online Tournaments. Welcome to the Heads Up Poker Podcast. This is Steve Barton, and thank you for tuning in. This week we are going to go over a hand that I played online in a tournament on 6-4 Spades. You guys know this site. I love it. It's this wonderful honey hole with fun players, just like a home game. You know it's a home game when Rex 345 sits down and 3 people type in the chat, "Hi, Gary." Okay, this is an awesome site. I love it. They've got great note-taking, which I'm going to go over here in a second, and it's pertinent to the hand. But I love the way that you can take notes on their site, and they also have the color coding. The software is just like any site that you would see with the PokerStars or ACR. They've got the color codes, and here's some of the color codes that I use. I would highly suggest you use color codes with your notes, regardless of how you're taking your notes. You should be taking notes on all your players anytime you see anything significant that jumps out at you, because you can use it later to figure out how to beat them. The codes I use, or color codes I use blue, and that to me signifies a shark, another good player. And I use red, and that to me means stop. There's an important note in here. Don't do anything until you read the note or you're sure what it says. Then I do yellow. That's just kind of lets me know that I've taken a note on the guy. It may be relevant, it may not, but it's a caution. Then green, that's my favorite one to see. And there's quite a bit of green here on 6-4 Spades, because green means put the gas on. You have a calling station, he calls down light, value bet the S out of him. Okay, so green is a great color for me when I see that. Orange, that is a little bit more specific, and that means that they are loss averse. So in other words, they are, they're not making that last little value bet on the river that they should, because they don't want to get raised off their hand. They're loss averse. They're trying to minimize their losses, but probably without realizing it, they're sacrificing some serious gains. So those are the colors I use, those 5, blue, red, yellow, green, and orange. And they have a bunch of other colors on there, but those are the 5 that I use. Yeah, okay, so the hand that we got, this is from a $30 tournament, and we have 17 players, and we are number 1 out of 17. We were the big stack in the tournament. The tournament has been running now for about an hour and a half. We're past the rebuy stage. We've completed the add-on. We're now, midway through this tournament. If I had to guess, I would say that there's probably was a total of 30 to 35 players that entered this, and we're about halfway through. And we're fortunate enough to have the biggest stack. Now, this hand is this tournament is a 6 max, so there's 6 total players at the table. It folds to the cutoff, and he has a stack of 15K, which is about 20 big blinds, with blind levels at 400, 800. The cutoff is the notes I have on him. It's a yellow note, and it says, loose calling station pre-flop, fit or fold on the flop. And then I've got another note, and it says, have not seen a bluff yet. Okay. The small blind, his color code here is yellow as well, and he's got 26,000 for a stack of 32 big blinds. He calls, and the note I have on him, the yellow note, says, min bet on flop was light, value hand. Fired 3, then another note I got, it says, fired 3 streets with TP TK, which is top pair, top kicker in my notes lingo for poker. Okay, so that's what we got there. And we're in the big blind with 58K, 73 big blinds, and we have 6-3 offsuit. So, actions on us. I see absolutely no reason to raise here with 6-3 offsuit. So we go for a check. So we check our option, and we see a flop. The flop is King of Hearts, 9 of Spades, 3 of Hearts. And we've got 6 of Diamonds, 3 of Clubs. So we have no heart, and we got bottom pair with a terrible kicker. The small blind leads out. He leads out for 800. He does so. It takes him about 5 seconds to bet. So online, you don't have any facial, tells or body language or any of that. So your 2 main clues in online poker are going to be bet sizing and timing. And if you really pay attention and you really watch, you can pick up patterns with certain players with timing and general patterns as well. And when someone checks after about 5 seconds, and then bets a small bet like this. Now, specifically for the note for this player, this is extremely relevant, and this is why, these are reasons why I take notes on this site, because you don't have a HUD. I take notes on other sites as well, but I'm especially diligent about doing it here because, I can't just look at a player and know he's a 25-15. Like, you got to get a general feel for it, But his note here is min bet on flop was light value hand. So I don't know if that meant that, he had middle pair with a terrible kicker or something. Yeah, I should have taken better notes. Maybe I didn't have time, but I should have wrote the board and what he had in that scenario. But that's the information that we got to go on. And he min bets here into this flop. So King of Hearts, 9 of Spades, 3 of Hearts. I would put that something as like, I don't know if he called there in the small blind with like pocket 4s through pocket, 6s or 7s or something. I don't know that many people are not going to 3-bet in his spot 8s there. But, some hand like that, maybe a weak 9, could be even something like top pair with terrible kicker, so like King Deuce offsuit. But here, we do have some value in this hand. We've got bottom pair, so we're ahead of his flush draws. I'm kind of opting for a raise here, and the reason I'm opting for a raise is because of another note that we have on the cutoff. Loose calling station pre-flop, fit or fold on flop. Have not seen a bluff yet. So, if we raise here, I feel pretty confident that the cutoff is going to fold unless he's got a flush draw, unless he's got maybe a good 9, or a king. I think we can raise here, and we can take it down the pot pretty often. So that's what we do. We make it 2-1-1-1. So villain bet 800. We raise to 2.5 times that with the one guy behind us. That's if you play the law of averages, he's only going to continue for less than a third of the time. He's going to connect somehow with the flop, and I think even less than that, he's going to continue to erase here. So we make it 2-1-1-1, and the cutoff takes a little bit, and then he folds. And now it folds to the small blind. He takes about 10 to 12 seconds and then calls. So what that tells us right there is that tells us that he has some type of decision. He has some hand. We really would have liked to get 2 folds, but you can't have everything. So that tells us he has some type of value hand. He's got something. He's not bet calling there with just complete error. I think oftentimes he's going to have some type of draw, whether that be Queen 10 or Jack 10 or Queen Jack for a gut shot, whether he's got 2 hearts, whether he's got a weak king, or maybe a 9, a strong 9, something like that. Okay, so he calls. Pot is now 7,100. We go to the turn, and the turn is the ace of clubs. So this is kind of an interesting card. Now, he takes a while here. He takes about 10 seconds, and then he checks. And when we're faced with the decision here, do we check or do we bet? I would overwhelmingly decide to bet. And the reason is because of his timing. It looks weak. And I think we could take the pot down here quite a bit. I think he's going to fold his 9s. I think he's going to fold a weak king. And the time that he took there, I feel like the only hands that are going to call us here are an ace. And, maybe he would take his time and check a weak ace there if he had something like, ace 7 offsuit that he limped in the big blind. And he had the ace of hearts, so maybe he had a backdoor flush draw, and he decided for whatever reason to call that. I don't think those are in his range. I think he has very few aces. I think he's got a lot of weak kings, 9s, and those other pocket pairs that we talked about. Now I think those are folding the flop. Yeah, so I think we can get him off a weak king, a 9 here, and take it down. And the hands that, even a hand like Queen Jack of Hearts, which has a gut shot, it's got a flush draw, and it's got 2 overs to our hand, we're still 60% against that. So we really don't mind if he calls those. So, what sizing to bet here? I think a mistake that a lot of players will make is into 7,100 here. I think if they're going to bluff at it, they oftentimes just bet too small. Bet something like 3K into this. I kind of like a bit of it might be a little exploitive, but I like going for pot or even a little bit more than pot, or just right up to pot, maybe a tiny bit under, but there's something about typing in a bet that is bigger than the pot that players really stop. And, now I would do this with something like, ace queen here as well, or a set, or, some type of really strong hand, but I think we need to do it with the weak ones as well, to balance that out. Something to note about when you do a pot size bet, there's some numbers that you should commit to memory, and they are what percentage of the pot you're betting and how often you need them to fold. So if you bet a third pot, you may have to rewind this. You probably want to write it down if you don't know these or have them committed to memory. I would put them on a little sticky pad. I did on my computer until they were instinct. But if you bet a third pot, you need them to fold 25% of the time. If you bet half pot, you need them to fold 33%, or a third. If you bet 2/3 pot, you need them to fold 40% of the time. And if you bet full pot, they only have to fold half the time, and you show a profit. Half the time you break even if they call 50% of the time, and if they fold any more than that, which most people do when you bet the pot, you're making a profit. I think that a lot of players here would miss this spot. I think that a lot of players here, when the small blind bets out like that onto the flop, they would just let their pair of 3s go and be done with it. But because we were diligent in taking notes and we can refer to them and use them, we were able to turn 6-3 offsuit into a profitable hand. It's important to learn how to play out of the blinds. You're going to be playing a fifth of the hands if you're at a full-handed table from the blinds, and a third of them if you're at a 6-max table. You need to know how to play out of those. I don't know anyone that is a winning player out of the big blind or the small blind. I'd like to believe that it's possible, but I just don't know. Your goal in the blinds is to lose the least amount possible. So if you were in the big blind for 100 hands and you folded every time, you would lose 100 big blinds. For the small blind, it's half that, so you'd lose 50 every 100 hands out of the small blind. Good numbers are significantly less than that. Mine are 25 big blinds I'm losing per 100 hands out of the big blind, and then 13 from the small blind, which I've run them across different players, and it seems pretty good. So I think it's because of spots like this I'm not missing, and there may be others that I am, but ones like this I think are key, especially when you can, because you're going to get so many trash hands. If you have any opportunity to turn those into profitable ones, you got to take it. If you want to play on this site with me, you can. Go to 64spades.com and get your rakeback. Use the code HUPOKER in all caps, and you will start scoring some rakeback. What are the poker sites got rakeback like this one, huh? You can play cash, or you can play tournaments. They have free rolls, they have low buy-ins, and then they have bigger buy-in tournaments. The $30 tournaments, the average buy-in when you divide up the total prize pool by how many people have entered it is anywhere from $75 to $80. The $40 ones, anywhere from $90 to $100. People rebuy, double rebuy, and add on to these, and there is a horrendous amount of value there. There is many, many people that are buying in 4 or 5 buy-ins, and they don't even have a lottery ticket. They have no chance of winning. They're going to have to pull a Darwin Moon to ship this tournament. Hope you guys enjoyed that. You can follow me on Twitter at HUP Podcast, and thank you for tuning in. Here is your weekly motivational speech.
Another one of these cliches or cliche stories is about Thomas Edison, right? When a reporter asked him, what is it? How did you feel about failing 1,000 times? And he said, no, I didn't fail 1,000 times. I just found 1,000 different ways that it wasn't going to work. And that's what's happening with you. But every time he found a way that didn't work, he was adding to his journey. He was growing stronger. He learned something. He discovered something. You are discovering something about yourself, and you're exercising your character every time you get up and try something, move in the direction of something, even if you don't get the thing. It's not about the thing. It's not about making the basketball team. It's not about making $1 million, and it's not about the light bulb. It's about what you learn along the way, who you become along the way, and you're on the journey. And guess what? The journey's hard. The journey is riddled with failure, and that's why most people don't do it. Most people aren't willing to get on that journey because they're afraid to fail. You, my friend, have failed. Congratulations. It's the greatest thing that ever happened to you because it shows that you're alive, it shows that you did something, and it shows that you're growing stronger. Now go and fail again, bro. I hope you guys that watch these videos, I hope you go and fail 1,000 times. Keep going out there and failing. You know what that means? Every time you fail, it means to me, it tells me that you're doing something.